huge debate in Spain because LaLiga wanted to bring an official match to Miami.
Ever since I was in high school, I've heard that the next sport in the US is soccer.
It's not anymore the user that is to look for the content or find the content. It's the content that finds the user.
That's right. Now they're like, how many tools can we create for the creators to spend more time on our platform? When brands experience the magic of the beautiful game, that unlocks the budget, man. But they have to be able to touch it and feel it and experience it.
So TJ.
Yes. How is this the first time we've ever done this before?
I don't know, but we should create a show or something.
Yes.
I mean, I love it. So, at Gameday Podcast, welcome first. Thank you for making the time and do this with me.
Of course.
The purpose of this podcast is basically give people an inside view on the sport industry and what's behind the beautiful show that we always see on stadiums, on TV. So I'm inviting different friends and executives in the industry with huge experience to give their different perspectives. It will be great to learn from you. You are one of the executives I have to say that I admire more in the industry. I've learned so much from you when we were working together at Twitter.
Likewise.
And why don't you tell us how you made your journey into the sport industry and what brought you here?
Wow. It makes me feel old. Well, first of all, thank you for having me, man. We've been doing this for a long time together.
Yeah.
So it's been fun to watch our careers kind of evolve, but still overlap in some interesting ways. So for me, I've always been a sports fan. I grew up in a sports household, and I always knew that I wasn't good enough to play professional or anything, but I knew that didn't mean I couldn't still work in the field that I was passionate about, which is sports.
It's funny because I always say the same. The reason why I end up in the sport industry is because I didn't have the talent to play.
That's right.
And I have to be connected somehow.
We are self-aware people. We are very self-aware. So similarly, I knew that I wasn't good enough. Early on, I was athletic, but I wasn't good enough, right? So I was strategic enough to start to identify areas that made sense to work within the sports industry. So ESPN was my dream company. So I went to college at the University of Georgia, and I submitted an application to be an intern. I landed the internship in Bristol, Connecticut, which is ESPN's headquarters. And as soon as I got that internship, I committed to myself that I would not leave unless I found a better opportunity. And that's what happened. I got the internship that turned into a full-time opportunity in Bristol, Connecticut. And that was my dream job, man. I got to work in what was deemed to be the worldwide leader in sports. And each and every day I saw talent, I saw athletes, I saw legends like Stuart Scott, and I got to watch them build a sports business firsthand. And that was really special to me. So I had courtside seats, basically front row seats, to watching one of the biggest brands in sport be built. And while I was there, for me, it was important to find new and growing opportunities so I wouldn't just be stuck in a business that was archaic or old. So the digital space was one that we all knew was growing, and specifically social. So while I was at ESPN, I worked on all of our digital, watchespn.com, and I touched some of our social, and I noticed that we would work with brands and we would say, hey, big brands like a McDonald's, on your media plan, we're gonna put a Facebook post and a Twitter post, and we'll charge you whatever we want. No analytics, no insights, because it was the early world of social.
Yeah, it was like going to the butcher store and you say, okay, put me half a kilo of chicken.
That's right. They just wanted social. And that was enough to fulfill the brand. So I started to get curious. I'm like, okay, well, if we can monetize these platforms with no real analytics, what is the opportunity on the other side, on the platform side? So during my lunch break, I'll never forget it, Kike. During my lunch break, I made sure nobody was watching. I went on LinkedIn.com, I put in Twitter, and I started searching opportunities. And I found an account manager role. This is before Twitter went public, so this is probably 2011, maybe 2012. And I applied, I got a call back in 48 hours, Then I started working at Twitter weeks later, and then, the ride began, man. The ride began.
Yeah, and at Twitter, we were lucky. I always say that we were lucky to be involved in the sport industry, but from a very unique angle and unique perspective that allow us to get a very cool insight on how consumption was evolving, and we've seen that. How have you seen that model evolving? Because you were fundamental to probably the first big media rights deal with a big tech platform, which was the NFL.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about?
You know what? I don't know if you remember, but before then, at that time, 2011, 2012, 2013, Twitter was like the cool social platform.
Yeah.
And every rights holder, every publisher had to use Twitter in some form or fashion. Real-time news, real-time updates. Your players are actually tweeting things that you might like, that you might not like, but your players are using Twitter as a way to connect directly with fans and brand build. And users began to go to Twitter first to get real-time information about the team instead of the app, instead of picking up the remote control, or instead of going to the website. So we became the first touch point that brands and media properties had with their fans. That was a very unique competitive advantage. We were the first stop for all brands. I'd say we were the global sports bar. So up until then, especially the work you were leading internationally, like getting players on, getting publishers on, getting media companies on, teams, leagues, all of that, and not only getting them onto the platform, but getting them to understand how Twitter can help them achieve their business objectives. So in 2016, as you referenced, we struck a deal with the National Football League to simulcast Thursday night football games on the platform. That fundamentally changed how we worked with rights holders, because at that point, the model had changed. We weren't just providing white glove service to people who wanted to use Twitter. We now became a channel that you could actually use commercially. That was a game changer, and it didn't exist anywhere in social, if you recall. So now we're licensing content, and we're helping top-tier sports publishers monetize their content on social. That was like a mind-blowing thing at the time. And you were scaling it at ex-US, and I was working on the team who was tasked with doing it in the US. And as a result of what we built, what we called Amplify at the time, we were able to build a real business off of companies and pairing them with brands on Twitter, in addition to the day-to-day marketing support that we provided. So that, man, I feel so privileged to have been on the front lines of that, because we created a new model, man. We created a new model, and it allowed publishers to think about social in very different ways,
Yeah, and we created a new model that today still is not there yet.
That's
but
right.
The old model, what is clear is that the old model of classic media rights, linear TV distribution, it's going through stress. And I say this a lot. We still have not break into the new model 100%.
That's right.
How are you seeing this transition?
Yeah, man. So we've talked about this idea of cord cutting forever, and the role that big tech plays in fan consumption habits. As it currently stands, as you mentioned, we haven't quite fully entered into the new media, but I don't know if we'll ever know what that looks like. Because as it currently stands, we have traditional broadcasts that are still really important, and they still generate tons of eyeballs. There are people that will always pick up their remote control to watch live anything, particularly live sports. In parallel, you have Amazon, you have Apple, you have YouTube, you have big tech playing a major role in rights acquisition and content distribution. We've never lived in this. Additionally, you have social, who was saying, okay, we're going to serve as the glue between linear and fandom and these big tech platforms, because you're going to get your short form content here. You're going to get your viral content here. The athletes that are playing on the pitch, they're actually going to create content. So there's this flywheel that occurs, and it's all fueling fan consumption. And historically, we've been very, very accustomed to, okay, the one-to-one, live broadcast, athlete, fan, that's it. Now there's so many different touch points, and we're all trying to make sense of it. And I don't know if anybody will ever have the answer, but I think our experience on the platform side has allowed us to have a really unique and really comprehensive perspective of how fans want to consume sports. Fans don't want to consume sports the same way they did. No. And if you're working with a franchise leader or team owner or a rights holder, the ways of the past are no longer the ways of the future. No. Sports marketing has completely changed. As we said, broadcast has completely changed. Live sports has completely changed. Fan engagement has completely changed. So if you're living in yesterday, you're not going to work. You know, you have to really embrace innovation. You have to embrace disruption. And you have to really have a lot of perspectives across. And that's one of the things that we're so fortunate. We know people at Meta, we know people at TikTok, we know people at broadcast, we know people at teams. And it really takes this kind of comprehensive perspective to understand the right way to guide teams, to guide franchises, whoever. It's a tricky time, but it's fun because nobody has the answers.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun because, as you said, there's so many things going on at the same time. Mm-hmm. The consumption habits has changed so much. If I think about myself when I was a kid, the only access that I have to sport was live games on Saturdays on TV, and then the news in Spain. On the news, you have like a sports section of 5 minutes, and you have one program on Mondays that was talking about what happened on the weekend. And if I put all the watch hours that was dedicated to sports,
yeah,
I would be maybe at 3 hours per week.
Yeah.
At the top. If I think about a kid today or a sport fan today, you consume the content from the players. You consume the content from the teams. You consume the content posted by the league. You consume live games. Maybe we're looking at 3 hours per day of sports consumption.
At least. And that's not to mention your group text with your friends. Like, it's the transfer window right now. People are scrolling through Fabrizio's tweets every second just to get a sense of what's happening next. The other thing we didn't talk about is the creator economy too. Not only are athletes creators, as you've mentioned, but now you have this whole new world of influencers that in many instances are more popular than the athletes themselves.
Yeah.
I went to Wembley Stadium several months back for the Sidemen match. So it was this influencer charity game.
Yeah.
Jake Paul, Kai Cenat, I Show Speed, some of the biggest names, Mr. Beast, the biggest names in creator. They packed out Wembley Stadium, 90,000 strong. After the match, kids were lining up just to take pictures and to get autographs. They were emotional about it. That's the way we were about our favorite athletes when we grew up. The fandom has really shifted, not completely, but the fandom has evolved in a way that, yes, you love Mbappe and you love LeBron James and whoever your favorite athletes are, but you also love your Kai Cenats and your I Show Speeds and your Jake and Logan Pauls. They carry just as much, if not more, influence than the athletes. That is wild. So if you're YouTube or TikTok or X or Snapchat, historically you've invested a lot of internal resources on servicing publishers, Premier League, the teams, the NBAs, the NFL. That shit has shifted. Now they're like, wait a minute, creators. How many creators can we onboard? How many tools can we create for the creators to spend more time on our platform? That's where the watch time is. We were talking a few moments ago about somebody who sold a YouTube channel for hundreds of millions of dollars that was really built off of creator watch content. That is insane. And if you're a traditional rights holder or publisher, how do you think about that? And how does that impact your business? I mean, bro, all this stuff is crazy that we're thinking about.
The debate can go on forever. Mm-hmm. And one of the biggest opportunities that I think the sport industry has is on athlete and relying more on distributing content through athletes as content creators.
That's right.
The problem we have today with athletes is that because we're living in the traditional model, there are a lot of limitations around the quantity of content that athletes can post on social. And if you want to be a successful content creator, you need to be feeding the beast. Right. You need to be creating content 24/7. It's a full-time job. But if you're an athlete, you cannot spend your full time creating content because you need to train, you need to travel with the team, you need to play your games. So you have this paradox where athletes are huge, but they cannot be content creators. But on the other side, you have thousands of hours of content that is sitting on a hard drive with the right holder that is not being used or monetized in the right way. Because of the TV deals you have, you cannot use the athlete to distribute that content.
And to sprinkle in another point of contention, athletes understand their influence a lot more now. They understand that they are platforms, they are brands. So now there's friction between the athlete and the club, because the club can say, hey, Kike, you're our star striker. Can you come to the facility and record 2 hours of content and we're going to monetize it? You could say, no, I'm not contractually obligated to do that. As a matter of fact, I'm going to do it on my own channels. What's the name of the brand? You can work with the brand by yourself.
Yeah.
You don't have to do it with the team, right? So I think teams are also struggling to find ways to incentivize their athletes to lean in, co-create content with them. One of the things that I do feel like in this era of athlete empowerment, which I love, is that sometimes the athletes forget that there is still a significant amount of impact and importance in the structure, the infrastructure that exists with the team.
Yeah.
If you're an athlete and you do collab posts with Real Madrid or whoever you play for, that actually builds your platform too. It elevates your platform. So you benefit from using the resources and the weight of the team, and you can still use that to brand build on the side. So there's been a real interesting friction that we're seeing with athletes and their clubs as well. And you might not be at the same club forever, right? So teams are also trying to understand how much they should invest in athletes' brands, because you can leave just as quick as you get there. So it's fascinating, but you're right. I do think there's a significant opportunity to understand what the new construct is, as opposed to leveraging the models of yesterday to try to force fit it into today. They don't work anymore.
No, they don't work anymore because we are in a time where it's not anymore the user that needs to look for the content or find the content. It's the content that finds the user.
That's right.
So you need to be in as many windows and ways of distribution as possible.
That's hard.
It's hard. It's a big challenge, but it's the challenge we're going through as an industry. We really need to figure out how we're going to reach and how we're going to engage the next generation that is consuming content in a completely different way. So for you, what's the answer? How do you see this playing out in the coming years?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, and we haven't talked much about this. So, I'm an operating partner at Arctos. I've been there for about 2 years. I'm an incredible sports private equity firm, and my role at the firm is to help our franchises think through fan engagement. Yeah. Particularly digital marketing, the creator economy, ecosystem connectivity across tech companies and social platforms. And part of my role is to think through this each and every day. I think the biggest piece of advice that I have for these publishers, these teams, these rights holders that I work with is that don't be afraid to innovate. You have to try new shit, because none of us have the answers, as we both mentioned, but you have to embrace change. You have to embrace new ways of thinking. And in the sports industry, with a lot of our legacy leaders, people don't want to admit that yesterday is yesterday's news, that you need to have fresh thinking, you need to be disruptive, you need to be innovative. That goes for the teams, that goes for the leagues, that goes for the governing bodies. It's high time for a fresh set of ideas, a fresh set of thinking, and thinking that isn't solely focused, it's gonna sound crazy, solely focused on commercial. Like we need to think about the evolution of fan consumption, because if we nail that, the commercial opportunities are gonna come. If we meet the fan where they're at and create these experiences that are optimized toward fan consumption, fan engagement, the sponsor dollars are gonna come and the commercial dollars are gonna come. It's just how the flywheel works. You know what I'm saying? So my biggest point of contention is trying to get folks who have done the same thing the same way for a really long time to try new things. You know, the only way you'll be successful in 2025 and beyond is if you're open to fresh perspectives and you're willing to break things. Some things won't work, some things will work, but the only way you understand what will work is by trying.
It's by trying, yeah. You need to try, test, and learn, and it's incredible that you still see a lot of sport properties that are market themselves with sponsor, with commercial partners the old way. And you see sponsorship deals are contracts that says, okay, we're gonna do this sponsor. I sell you the shirt. I sell you the LED boards around the pitch, and then you will have 5 posts on our social media account like it used to be. But now brands are becoming more innovative and becoming more digital savvy. Mm-hmm. They want real result. And the big challenge for these commercial opportunities is how you demonstrate that the brands and the sponsors that you are driving that actual business business goals. How are you recommending, or what are your advice to sport properties that want to crack this new model of sponsorship?
Yeah, it's actually going to sound a little counter to what you said. The way to crack it is not to have the expectation that today's investment will return in ROI tomorrow, because it may not be tomorrow. Yeah. The reality is you may not ever see the ROI, but if you invest today in fan engagement, in marketing, and building a brand, it's going to pay off. Some of it may be harder to measure quantitatively, and I think that's what a lot of legacy leaders struggle with. Yeah. But if you invest in, we'll use social as an example, if you invest in best-in-class social, you look at the Real Madrids of this world, the PSGs, the Liverpools, the Arsenals, they've invested heavily in brand building. And what has resulted as a function of that is increased ticket sales, increased jersey sales and merch, and increase fandom around the globe. You walk around New York City, which we're doing, you're seeing PSG Jordan jerseys, you're seeing Mbappe jerseys, right? It's a globalization of sport, and it's a function of them investing intentionally in their social digital footprint. Hiring that extra editor, hiring that extra social lead today may look like sunken costs, but over time it amortizes, and you'll see the value in it. You'll see more brands say, hey, that LED board, I'm okay with that. I actually want a digital franchise. Yeah. I want you to fulfill me on your Instagram and TikTok channels. That's unlimited inventory for you. You can post as many times as you want to on social, and you can monetize that in ways that you can't necessarily monetize on the pitch or on the scoreboard. So that's where like the push and pull, the friction occurs of like marketing and commercial. Sometimes they don't necessarily coalesce immediately, but they fuel each other, man. They fuel each other.
Yeah. You mentioned walking in New York, seeing PSG shirts, Real Madrid shirts, Mbappe shirts. We are in a moment where the industry of football has been trying to conquer the US for a long time. And I think they never really crack it. It's a different market. You know, US sport consumption is completely different to European one. But you have Messi, the first ever Club World Cup player in the US. the World Cup coming next year to the US. Personally, I believe that if football or soccer, as you call it here, doesn't crack the US market now, it's not going to happen. Yeah. What do you think is missing? What football as an industry need to do to crack the US market, now that you are also advising a lot of franchises and international sport properties?
It's a great question, but I'll tell you, ever since I was in high school, I've heard that the next sport in the US is soccer. I've heard it pretty much my entire life. But that moment has yet to occur, to your point. What I will say, though, is when I'm around Gen Z, mentees, cousins, siblings, or just friends and family, I'm seeing that more kids are playing soccer, but the fandom is more distributed in soccer. I might have an MLS team. I might love a local team, but then I might have an English Premier League team. I might have a League One team. There are these soccer fans in the States love multiple teams. And a lot of that is driven by star power. A lot of it is driven by they love Dembele, they love Mbappe, they love Messi. And that star power oftentimes fuels fandom. But I think the biggest step for us will be deeper storytelling around these athletes. When you know who the athlete is, when you know their story, you develop a connection with them. Yeah. And then you want to buy their jersey. And then you want to see them play. And I think there's been a gap in storytelling across the pond. I've been a big Premier League fan my whole life, and I think about one of my favorite players is Bukayo Saka, who I think is incredible. I can't tell you how many stories that I've actually read or consumed about him in the U.S., and he's a superstar, you know. The same can be said about other players across European football. So I think there's a responsibility that all of us have around storytelling, and you said athlete-led storytelling as well, because the closer we feel to these players, the more connection and the more it converts. That's one. Two, I just think that we need to see it more. You know, last year there were a series of friendlies across the summer in the United States, and there were sold-out arenas, sold-out stadiums. There's an appetite for global football in the U.S. We just don't get to touch it as much. Yeah. And then I would say lastly, for whatever reason, I think the biggest domino that has yet to fall is U.S. dollars extending to global football, right? The big U.S. brands that spend a lot in sport may not necessarily spend a lot in the Premier League. And that's what drives a lot of conversion, right? If you can get a big brand anchor, it's easier to tell a global story. PSG and Jordan, it's a great example. Once they got that Jordan brand, it started to feel more endemic to the U.S., and which is why you'll see the jerseys around. So I think there's a gap that exists on the sponsorship side, and we've seen clubs have a sponsorship lead in the U.S. and the rest of the team is in London or Paris, and there's no real cohesion. There's no real connectivity. Yeah. If you're a Lone Ranger as an extension of a European team in New York or L.A., you're not really living it, right? And I haven't seen many examples of that being successful. So teams are still trying to figure out what a clear and smart extension of themselves looks like in the U.S. And I don't think there's going to be one answer to that. But if you're you know a global sports brand and you want to break through the U.S., you have to be here. You have to be here, and you have to understand what that looks and feels like. So we're trying to help teams think through that right now. Do you have an office here? Do you have a resource here? Do you come on a recurring basis? Do you have a storefront here? How do you continue to galvanize people in the U.S.? But I think the biggest gap is brand spend. And when teams can kind of crack that brand code, I think the dollars come, the storytelling comes, and then you get a bigger story. So to your point, 2026, man, that's really going to be a telling year for all of us. Yeah. And I think we'll have a good story. I think one of the bigger things that we'll need to think about is and we may have talked about this earlier, 2026 can't be a blip. It can't be a blur. It needs to create a foundation of sustained momentum.
Yeah.
If 2026 comes and goes, then we're cooked. It's done. But if 2026 serves as the foundation for sustained global football fandom, then we've done what we're supposed to do. Time will tell, though.
Yeah, it's about increasing the touch point with the local fan base, with those stories. And one thing that I was thinking while you were talking, and I thought it was very interesting, is that European clubs come to the US typically on summer tours, doing friendly games, but it feels a little bit like everything like a promotional event. And even if it's a promotional event, the arenas are sold out and the appetite is there. There was a huge debate in Spain because LaLiga wanted to bring an official match for the first time to the US, to Miami. We're seeing NFL, NBA doing that with Europe, but it looks like the historic foundation of the European football is not allowing, or the historic statements are not allowing the leagues to do that. Do you think that bringing regular official matches will help crack the U.S. market?
The U.S. is such a sports-obsessed market, and we care about games that matter. Friendlies are cool to buy a jersey at and take a picture at, but the games don't matter. They don't really matter. I, as a U.S. sports fan, I've seen NFL games outside of the U.S., in London, in Germany, in Mexico City. I've seen NBA games in Tokyo, in Paris, in Abu Dhabi, in London. I've traveled to see these matches because they're regular season matches that mean something. You know, there was a match that the San Antonio Spurs had when the NBA went to Paris, and they all went to the PSG Manchester City match, and it was a beautiful moment. The games have to matter. I truly believe if the games matter and there's more frequency, that it'll start to develop a bit more connectivity. Right now, it just feels disconnected because it's summertime, a few friendly matches, and they go back and then you watch it on television. So there's something to be said for that, which is a lot of the reason why U.S. leagues are starting to really be bullish in having matches outside of the U.S. And those matches are packed. Those NFL matches are packed. Those NBA matches are packed.
NFL is coming to Madrid next year.
It's going to be nuts. Yeah. The Commanders, I'm coming. I should talk to you about that. I might need a place to stay. So
okay, you can stay at my place. Don't worry. You have your home in Madrid.
Perfect.
But yeah, it's something that definitely the European sport needs to think about more if they really need to commit if we wanted to crack the US.
Yeah. I think that at the very least, it unlocks a significant sponsorship discussion. And I think opportunities arise from discussions. You have a conversation, they experience, we're going to go on Sunday and there are going to be so many brands there. When brands experience the magic of the beautiful game, that unlocks the budget, man. But they have to be able to touch it and feel it and experience it. Otherwise, they're just watching it on television and social, and it doesn't feel the same.
It doesn't feel the same. We're in an industry that sells emotion.
That's right.
That brings emotion to life, and that's the biggest power that we have as an industry.
For sure. Man, we can do this all day, man.
I know. Thank you so much for making the time. It's been a pleasure, and we'll repeat this very soon.
Let's do it in Spain.
I'll do it. Yeah, let's do it. Well, you're coming for the Miami
MVP,
the Miami Dolphins game in the NFL in Madrid, so we'll take that chance for sure.
Perfect.
Thank you so much,
Thanks, man.
It was a pleasure.
Good to see you, man.